So we all want connection, but most of us are completely out of practice by the time we make it into midlife. For years, we had friendships that were built into our routines with our children, soccer practices, Girl Scouts, all the things. And now, as we get to this stage of our life, it seems to take a little bit more effort and a lot of vulnerability. And so when so much connection is now happening online, thanks to COVID, that can also feel quite intimidating, especially if tech is not your thing like me. So the truth is, many women now are spending a lot of their time chatting with ChatGPT, which is great when you get all those compliments that they throw back at you. But real friendship is all about more than that. And it's about being challenged and being seen, being reminded of who you are. And so today, that's why I've invited Cecelia Curtis, host of the Friendship Tour podcast. We're going to talk about how to build lasting, life-giving friendships in a world that feels completely disconnected. So, hi, Cecilia. How you doing today?
Hi, so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I love chatting with you. We found out that we are both tea lovers in a world
Yes,
full of coffee lovers.
yes.
So it is so fun. That is one of the things we've been able to connect about. But tell us a little bit about what led you to start the Friendship Tour podcast. And was there this aha moment that kind of led to all of that?
Yeah, I didn't start out with this whole plan to have a podcast about friendship. I mean, it was always about friendship, but it was actually about what was going on in my life. So, my husband just retired from the Air Force. He retired in June. And as we were leading up to his retirement, I just really started thinking about all these people I've crossed paths with, all these people who've blessed my life, whether it was in Germany or Japan or Ohio or, Miami, Florida. I just started thinking about them. And some of them I had managed to stay in contact with, but some of them I really hadn't. So I wanted to go on this tour to tell them, like, hey, I remember you. Thank you for blessing my life. And that's really where it came from. It was from my heart. And as I started doing more and more episodes, first of all, I didn't record every reunion because some of my friends just weren't into that. So some of it was like, hey, it's nice to talk to you. Let's meet up for dinner, but I'm absolutely not turning on a microphone. So that's totally fine and totally cool. But as I started recording those conversations and sharing some of those friendship stories, I started hearing from women I didn't know who wanted to talk about more aspects of friendship. So over time, I've been doing the podcast for about a year and a half now. It's evolved from some of my personal friendship stories and some of those moments of connection and reconnection into like, hey, what does it really take for a friendship to tick? Like, how does a friendship start? How do you make it last? So it's been an evolution, but it started with me just wanting to hang out with people I thought were really cool and who had blessed my life.
Yeah, and I love that. Was a military kid, but it is hard to develop
Yeah.
friendships, even in those younger years when everything's built in, but especially right now, right in midlife, because like you, I'm sure plenty of people are traveling and moving. I'm on the road all the time as a nomad, and so it just has to be really intentional. Um,
Yeah.
so talking about midlife and how a lot of us are coming off of having a lot of built-in things because of our children or co-workers and now maybe moving on in transition to retirement or whatever. Now things don't seem to be automatic. And so I think personally that actually really affected my confidence in so many ways. And I'm sure it does for many people listening. So when friendship and connection is a lot about your self-worth and your likability and how you show up in this world. But I know that two common myths I come across from women that I'm talking to and I'm coaching with. And I think I'd love to really hear kind of what you think about this because you are so good. You reached out to me and I thought, oh my goodness, I feel like we're already best friends and I just met her. And that doesn't happen naturally to me. So I love that that's how you approach things. So if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of give you these two thoughts that people keep throwing out to me. But one is that friendship should be really easy, kind of like it always
Mm.
was growing up, right? Like you have somebody you sit next to at desk at school, and so you naturally just end up being with them. But in this season, because it takes intentionality, I think a lot of people might think it has something to do with them or whatever. So I would love to hear what you think about that.
Okay, so the myth is that friendship should be easy. And you threw in a little extra part that it was easy when we were kids. And I'm going to go all the way back to childhood for a second,
Yes.
because if we're honest with ourselves, at least the girls, I can't speak for the boys, friendship wasn't even like all the time easy when we were kids. I mean, sure, it was easy in that you knew 20 other girls who were about the same age as you. You saw them every single day. But half the time, 10 of those girls were mean to you. Like, I don't know about your school, but that was the case for me. I did a whole episode on this mean girl experience from fourth grade. So if we're really, really honest with ourselves, it wasn't always easy then. But let's go back to adulthood. We're grown-ups now, right? So there is a myth that it should be easy. And I think there are aspects of friendship that actually should be easy. You know, you should want to spend time with this person. You should genuinely be interested in their life, and they should show some interest in yours. That part should be easy. But life happens, and there are things that make it more difficult. You know, we have all these things in our life, all these, some are distractions, but some are just real life. You know, you have your job, you have your kids. No matter how old you are, if you're a mother, you have your kids, right? You have perhaps parents who need a little bit more of your attention than they did when you were a little bit younger. You have these dreams and these goals that you're trying to work through. You want to fulfill your purpose that God has given you, and all that takes time. So you're trying to figure out, where do my friendships fit in? And where do I fit into this person's life? Because I have time on Tuesday. You fit into my life on Tuesday. But, you know, you're telling me, no, you fit into my life on Thursday. So there are aspects of friendship that should be easy. You shouldn't be fighting with someone on day one and still trying to make it work for a year. Like, come on. If you're not getting along from the beginning, it's not the one, you know? But if you genuinely enjoy one another's company, your values are very similar, you don't have to be the same age. You know, a lot of people are looking for these relationships where everything aligns and everything looks perfect on paper. That might not be the case. So you may have to adjust your, expectations, but some things should be easy, other things might not be, just because that's the stage of life we're in. It's
Yeah,
just the
and
way it
you
is.
you made a good point because at the season where I'm at, being a grandmother, my both of my girls are moved out of the house, have their own families. I find that the majority of my friends that I'm able to connect with now are single women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have more time. They're not, I mean, of course, they have their jobs and everything else. I'm not saying they're not busy, but it does seem to be a little bit easier to connect and find time. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, yeah, that's so true. Here's the next one that I hear a lot of people talk about is, women, we're really good at gathering women and having what some people would call cliques. I don't necessarily
Mm.
call them all cliques. Sometimes they are cliques, don't get me wrong. But sometimes just a group of women tend to gravitate together, and it can be hard to kind of infiltrate into a group that's already established. But it doesn't mean that they've missed their chance. And I think a lot of people feel like they've already got their group, so I've missed my chance. They're not going to welcome me in. And I would love to hear what you think about that because you have a lot of friends. And I wouldn't say that there's not room for more because you definitely create room for more.
Yeah, I would say if you have missed your chance to make your best friend in second grade, you've missed your chance for that. But otherwise, if you're still on this earth, you're still breathing, there's a chance. There's a chance. There's always more time if you're still on this earth and God is allowing you to take another breath. I will say that there are certain seasons of life where it's easier for some people to make friends than other seasons. You know, when let's say you go to college, you're around a lot of people who are very similar to you. They're going a similar place in life. That's going to make things a little bit easier. When you get to midlife, you and I are very close in age, but our lives are very different. You have grandchildren. I have a 5-year-old. So
That's right.
our our ages are similar, but our season of life is not similar. So you have to look around and figure out, maybe this season in my life is over and I should be looking for someone who's in a similar season. That person may not be the same age. That person may not go to the same church as you. That person, dot, dot, dot. So I think sometimes we're telling ourselves these lies when really we've just set up these expectations for ourselves that are unrealistic, and they're making it very difficult for us to make friends. You talked about the cliques. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's someone's job to break into a clique. I don't. I think if there's a group of women, it would be nice if someone is welcoming to them, but I don't think it's your job to break into a clique. I think a situation like that, their friendship, their social needs are already met. And I accept that. Like, I accept that. I hope that others accept that too. That just sets you up for heartbreak. That just sets you up for failure if you see that there's a clique and you want to be a part of it and they don't want you to be a part of it. Like, it's hard to hear that, but don't set yourself up for failure. Like, have realistic expectations. I promise you, there's another 40 something year old woman with a 5 year old. There's another 40 something year old woman with grandchildren. Like, find them. It might take a little bit of work, it might take a little bit of effort, but you shouldn't be comparing yourself to, I've missed that season, I've missed that time to make friends. No, you missed that time to make friends in second grade. You missed that time to make friends when maybe your kids were two at the playground. But look at where you are in life now. Make that your season. Like, don't worry
Yeah.
about the previous seasons. Make this your season and move forward.
Well, and I think too, one thing I've noticed about groups of women, there's always someone coming in and coming out and flowing in and
Exactly.
flowing out. It's like a Bible study or a book club or,
Hmm.
you know, and so if you can kind of find a group like that, that's just kind of that ebb and flow, you probably will be able to find a spot there, right?
Yeah,
Especially if you're good at cooking food. I'm just kidding. I'm terrible at cooking food, but I am always willing to host the party.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the season of friendship and how it's a little bit different, and then how it can feel a little bit disorienting. But I know that people here listening, they kind of want to have a few tips about how to move forward. Like, what can I do to kind of step out and be a little brave, right? Because it takes a little bit of bravery.
It
And
does.
so I'd love to hear if you have any kind of mindset shifts or ideas or tips for people like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I'm going to go the mindset route instead of the tip route because I do think it starts with just getting your head in the game. A lot of people are sitting on their couch, they're comfortable with Netflix. Lord knows I'm comfortable with my Netflix on the couch. So we're sitting on the couch, we're comfortable with Netflix. It's easy to just keep scrolling and think that you're okay, to think that you don't need friends, to think that you've missed your season. And that's why I want to start with the mindset instead of with the tips. So the mindset is like, it's a lie. It's a total lie. I'm fine by myself. I don't need anyone. That is a lie. That is a myth. I'm thinking about Genesis 2:18 when God looked at Adam and he said, it is not good for man to be alone. So then, he creates Eve. He created a whole person so Adam wouldn't be alone. And I know that we think about that scripture, in terms of marriage and the special relationship that God created for Adam and Eve. But I really think from the beginning, God was telling us, you're not supposed to be alone. You're supposed to be connected to me and connected to other people. And he created a whole human being to do that?
I love that.
So yeah, so go back to the very beginning. You might feel okay, but that's not God's design. Another thing I hear women rehearsing all the bad things that have happened in their friendships. Like, well, when I was in high school, so and so kissed my boyfriend, or when I when I go out in social situations, I'm so awkward. I always say the wrong things. Stop with the always. Stop with the never. Stop rehearsing all the bad things that have happened. Stop being negative about the things that could happen. I would say to people who are always stuck in this, like, what if, what if, what if? I'm going to point you right back to the scripture. The word says, be anxious for nothing. And I'm not quoting directly from the Bible, but be anxious for nothing. Take it to the Lord in prayer. With thanksgiving, take it to the Lord in prayer. So you can sit there and think about all your what ifs and get yourself in a real funky mood. Or you can take it to God in prayer and be like, you know what? I do need people, and God's going to bless me with the right people. So those are two things that I would start with. I'm going to think of maybe one more. One more. Some people are like, cool, I know that I need people, but I always pick the wrong people. I always pick the friend who's going to betray me. I always pick the person who doesn't call me back. I always, always, always like, what if I pick the wrong person again? And in that case, I would say that's more of like a wisdom and a judgment thing, and you don't trust that you're wise enough to make these choices. You don't have to be. Again, the Bible says that you can ask God for wisdom. And if you ask him, he will generously give it to you. I think that's James. maybe 1:5, please. I'm not a pastor, Bible scholar, but I do know that it's in the Bible. I'm pretty sure it's in James, but just ask God. We don't have to wonder if we can pick the right people. We don't have to fear that we're going to make the wrong comments at a dinner party. Like, give yourselves grace when these things happen. We all say and do awkward things. We all had a bad boyfriend or, picked the wrong friend in middle school. Whatever happens, don't let that fear hold you back from what God wants to bless you with in the future.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny because when I talk to people, because I talk to a lot of people, I'm traveling all the time at art shows, doing the things, talking to people. And I find that we all have more in common
We
than
do.
we don't,
We do.
right? And I think it's easy for us to psych ourselves out with all the lies and all the mindset. And so I love that you chose mindset. It's so easy to psych ourselves out and make things safe and
Yeah.
not do anything. And so that's why I said it takes bravery. I'm an introvert. So like I love being alone.
Yep.
But I also know that as much as I am alone being on the road, I absolutely have to be intentional. And I
Yeah.
think that commitment to yourself that you're worth being intentional about to go and do these brave things, you'll walk on the other side and end up with the fruit of that labor, right?
Yeah.
Somebody out there is going to like tea just like you. Somebody's going to like or dislike, the pumpkin spice lattes. Somebody's going
Oh,
to be,
I'm
right?
with you,
Like
girl. Yeah.
but you're right. There's going to be a 40 something out there who's a grandma or a 40 something out there with a 5-year-old.
Right.
And so that's where you've got to trust the Lord to take care of that detail for you. Okay, so please tell us because I love everything I've listened from you on your podcast is wonderful. Please tell
Oh, thank
everyone
you.
how they can follow you and listen to the Friendship Tour.
The podcast is the Friendship Tour. It's available however you listen to podcasts. And if you want to connect with me, you can go to ceceliacurtis.com. That's CECELIACURTIS.com. From there, you can join the Facebook group. You can check me out on Instagram, but all of the links are on the website. So check it out. Check it out.
I love that. And you guys, when you joined her Facebook group, it's really fun. She does not post canned Facebook group posts. Like she really puts up really funny stuff and asks you really tough questions about friendship to get you thinking. And it's wonderful. I think one of my favorite questions she was asking, like the value of new friendships and old friendships. And I had to sit there and think about that because it was like, you know what? I kind of value both. The old
Ah,
ones, they know me so deep and so well. So when I have a hard day, I don't have to like preface when I call them. I can just dump it and they can remind me of who I am really quick, right?
yeah.
But the new ones, they can be adventurous, but they also are good at challenging me to do the new brave things because I have to show up authentically, but I also have to be there in a place where I don't necessarily know if we're going to agree on this or not agree on that and it's actually one last thing I got to say about friendship, it's okay not to agree on everything. Can I
It
just
is
say that?
okay. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm glad you said that. It scares me when people want to have friends who are exactly like them. I'm like, you don't grow when everyone is exactly like you. You don't challenge one another. You don't learn anything new when all of your friends are exactly like you. So thank you for saying that. That is so near and dear to my heart. Like, find a friend who's not like you. Learn something. Grow.
Yes. And Jesus showed us that. I mean,
Yes.
he literally kissed Judas on the day that he knew that Judas was going to betray him,
Mm, mm.
right? And so that's what we're to do. We're supposed to be with everyone, love everyone, show everyone God's kindness and love and reflect it and then let him do the rest, right?
Yes.
We don't have to fix anybody, we don't have to convince anybody. We just get to show up as us, reflecting God's light and then let him do the rest. Okay,
Amen.
so I am so glad that you joined us today, Cecilia. I want to make sure that everyone knows again, you can go find her at the Friendship Tour podcast and go to her website. She spelled out her name and it's with an extra E, not the
Yes.
I. I got that one wrong in one of my emails. Sorry about that.
It's
And
okay.
so it's Cecelia Curtis,
Correct.
okay? So, and then next week, please join us because we're going to be talking about how to stop wasting time and money on beauty treatments that are not going to work. I'm going to just totally reveal all those things to save you all the time and money because you're worth being able to accelerate yourself through the process without all that hard stressing out over everything. So I'll see you guys all next week.